All right. Hello, everyone, to the latest innovative locations. I'm really excited to have Alex Patterson, who's the CEO and founder of Beat the Bomb, with us today. Before he launched the company in 2018, he was an executive at the competitive team obstacle course event Tough Mudder. And he graduated from Harvard and has a JD from the University of Virginia School of Law. And Alex, it's great to have you on. Thanks so much for making time for this.
Well, thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to hear more about Beat the Bomb because it sounds pretty cool. So Beat the Bomb is a high-tech escape room concept that puts teams of four through a series of challenges activated with touch screens and projection walls and laser mazes. And then this all leads up to a signature paint bomb that targets teams who fail to beat the bomb. And Alex, you're probably going to give a way better description than I can. So if you could just start by telling us about walking into the experience, the moment you walk in the door to the time that you're leaving, what should a customer expect?
Well, thanks so much for having me, Eden. I really appreciate the opportunity here. So Beat the Bomb is the world's first immersive video game company. What we've pioneered are these rooms enabled with digital technology to create reprogrammable team video game experiences. When you walk into Beat the Bomb, the first thing we do is, of course, have you sign a waiver because you're eventually going to get blasted with paint, so we need you to sign a waiver. We then have a proprietary site op system where we take your data from the waiver and are able to assign you to a team. We give you a blue RFID wristband, a white hazmat suit, have you put on the hazmat suit. We take your photos in front of this really cool paint bucket wall with the Beat the Bomb logo. And as we'll talk about later, a lot about Beat the Bomb has been concepted in order to resonate well on social media. So the minute that you put on these white hazmat suits, we find people going live on their Instagram stories, making TikTok videos, posting on Facebook, etc. So they have this sort of moment where they can take a photo, they can gather themselves and their thoughts, do a little bit of team strategy. We then walk them through this portal, sort of a bit of an arched-like portal, transporting them to the back of our facility where the game rooms are. We give them a 2-minute instructions video that tells them about the experience they're about to undertake, in which it describes they're going to do 4 rooms, each a 10-minute game, building up to the 5th and final room, in which there's the paint bomb. Sort of the entire conceit of it, the challenge of it, is during those first 4 rooms, you earn time on a bomb clock. You start with 0 seconds. You earn as much time as you can, and that's the amount of time you have in the 5th and final room to disarm the bomb as a team, or else you get blasted with paint, and we get the whole thing on photos and videos. So that 2-minute video tells you that. You then enter the first room, and with your RFID wristband, you tap an RFID reader in the room, and it basically lights up the game, and you start your experience. You progress yourself from room to room to room. There's no Beat the Bomb staffer or employee who does that. You walk through after 10 minutes are up, you get your score in that room, you move to the next room, you tap your RFID wristband on a reader on the wall, that starts the next game. And you do that 4 times until you finally get in the bomb room. One of our employees is there kind of behind the controls of the bomb so that we manually hit fire when the time is right. But it's this sort of super immersive, tech-enabled video game experience that we developed.
That's awesome. How long does it take to get through all of the rooms, like the whole experience? How long would that normally be?
So the whole experience takes just about under an hour. I said the games, there are 4 10-minute games. Mm-hmm. So when you combine those, that's 40 minutes. Most teams get about 5 minutes to try to disarm the bomb. And when you take a little bit of transition time between rooms of the team progressing themselves, and then the time to get suited up with a helmet in the final room, and then take your photos and videos after, you're pushing kind of probably about a 55-minute experience from start to end. And that's what we want. We want it to be about 60 minutes from the time you enter to the time you're done with the experience.
Cool. That's awesome. So are you an escape room aficionado yourself? Like, how did you come up with this idea?
I would say that I'm more of a critical thinker of escape rooms. I like them, but I don't love them. And a lot of things about Beat the Bomb have been developed specifically to improve upon aspects that I don't like about escape rooms. Mm-hmm. If I could tell you the story of the creation of Beat the Bomb, it intertwines, of course, with my career journey. I started out as an attorney. Actually, before that, as a teenager, I was a lifeguard. And the reason that's important is that lifeguarding is all about teamwork. It's different than sort of competitive swimming where you're trying to beat the person next to you. As a lifeguard, you're working with the other swimmer, other lifeguard, to try to get someone in out there who's in trouble and who's drowning. And a lot of the aspects of Beat the Bomb that I've incorporated are all about working together as a team to accomplish something that you could not do as an individual. And that is the broader value of the Beat the Bomb experience. In some ways, kind of our contribution to the world is we believe that it's really necessary to inculcate and teach people, especially kids, about working together and about achieving things that they can't do just by themselves. And it's one of the reasons why it's such a fun, meaningful experience, fun, meaningful social experience, because you play this game that makes you work together as a team. You feel very valuable as a member of that team when you're done with the experience. Yeah. But I was a tax attorney, and I left to join this wild and crazy fun company called Tough Mudder, which is an obstacle course events company. At the time, we had just had one event, and I was there for 5 years, and sort of very part of the executive team that grew it from 3 events our first year to 14 events our second, then 35, then 60, and we've got about 75 million in revenue in the first 3 years. Put on events all around the globe. And so I really learned to love an experience that was ticketed, that made a group of people do a team experience, because Tough Mudder was a team experience, that produced social media content that you just had to share and had to talk about, and that was replicable. So you could do it more than one place. So Tough Mudder ended up having events all around the world. So after 5 years there, I started as the attorney. Then I was the chief marketing officer. Then I was essentially the chief product officer, where I was coming up with new obstacles, designing courses. And actually from there, I was involved in the company's HR department, hiring, the company's culture. And it was really in that role that I started to have to think about our own growing team and what types of team building experience we would do. Yeah. So that's where I started to have escape rooms on my radar, because we did a few of those, and we created these sort of summer games challenges. We call it, color wars. I think a lot of companies do kind of color wars. They separate the company into teams, red team, blue team, yellow team, and create challenges for them. And so I really started to get interested in kind of small group challenges that were not overcoming 10-foot muddy walls or going under barbed wire or jumping into dumpsters full of ice, which is the Tough Mudder challenge. If you could create a team experience like a Tough Mudder, kind of the feeling of being on a team there. If you put it in a city, in a box, it would be a total hit, especially if you ended with something that was super shareable and we gave you a great video. Sure. So at the time, the color run was all the rage. I don't know if folks remember that kind of 2014, 15 timeframe when everyone was running these color run events where they would throw colored powder on you as you ran and you get a photo for Instagram. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, so things like Nickelodeon slime shows and Double Dare type TV shows where you get gooped at the end. I kind of love those. And so kind of starting to put all these inspirations together as I began to do escape rooms. And there are things I really liked about it. It was really fun to enter this immersive game room. But the fundamental gameplay was extremely individualistic. It's essentially you're piecing together disparate information around the room. The clock is set at 5:05. Well, there's a Bible. Why don't we look at page 505 to see if there's something? That's very hard to do as a team. It's like doing a math test as a team. It's just difficult. It's the fundamental gameplay was in your own mind. So I felt whenever I do an escape room, I kind of felt lonely in the room, even if there were other people. I liked that it was immersive. I liked that it was you'd go to it as a team. Other things that were tough about it, I felt as a business, they made you put your phones in the lockers. And this is in a world where social media was increasingly important. So imagine an experience where you tell people you can't take pictures. It doesn't seem very modern, does it? So I didn't like that it was totally secret. But of course, an escape room has to be, because if you film it and put it on YouTube, you ruin it for everyone else. Right. I also didn't like the ending. I felt they were very anticlimactic. If you didn't get out of the escape room, what do? They let you out. So you'd fail, and they open the door and say, you were too quick, 2 pieces of information around from getting away from getting the key and leaving. Sure. This is not really that fun. if I fail, something should happen. I mean, at Tough Mudder, if you slipped off a wall, you landed on your back. At least something happened. So, I began to think, I don't love that. And then from a business perspective, an escape room, as they begin to get scale, as they have 5 different locations, 10 locations, 20 locations, they start to run into a problem, which is they need to use all of their free cash flow to renovate their rooms. Imagine having 5 houses, but you can't buy a 6th house because you need to renovate the kitchen on all the first 5. That's what owning an escape room business is like. I wanted something where the greater scale you got, the easier it got. You could have a central game team that can ship out game updates like GitHub, and they can be downloaded across all of your locations. You want something that benefits from scale, that doesn't get harmed by it. And that's where I thought, okay, make the rooms digital. Instead of a spy espionage thing, make it more, you bolt on touchscreen TVs, projectors that have projection mapped walls, use the RFID readers that can light up different colors. And with these component tools, you can now make innumerable games. The RFID reader, when you tap it, can make a sound, or it can change a color, or it can put Eden's name and Alex's name on a TV on the wall. So you make these components, and then you can, like a chef, you can make many, many games out of them, and they can be constantly reprogrammable, was the idea. And eventually you can bring other people in to begin to develop games for your platform, which is where the company is increasingly going towards being a game platform, a room-based gaming platform.
Very cool. Yeah, so I guess I didn't realize that was the whole thought. Making it digital isn't just about the experience, but also the scalability, because you can change it and push it out to any location from just your computer, essentially. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a tech schematic, and if I have a hard drive, like this or something, I could get on a plane to Tokyo and pop up a Beat the Bomb, because Tokyo has firms that can bolt technology onto the walls, that can connect, run cabling to server rooms, and like that, you hit the button and up is your Beat the Bomb. You don't need a specialty person who knows how to make, false trapdoor closets, or the types of stuff escape room needs. They're very much scenic and set design companies, and I wanted something that wasn't like that at all. I began to think, of course, the best gaming platform the world has ever seen is your cell phone, and it's just a 2-inch by 4-inch screen,
right?
And yet it has more games than anything. And that was the idea. Like a tablet can play thousands of games. Monopoly as a board, or Hungry Hippo, you can only play one thing. A sort of built environment to do one thing can only do that one thing. Create something that's changeable. And then also I thought technology advances and develops. If having an AR headset is like wearing a pair of Ray-Bans, like Mark Zuckerberg will want us to do, there's nothing that will stop Beat the Bomb from saying, and every player gets a fanny pack, and in that fanny pack is a set of AR Ray-Bans, and in the 4th room, put on the Ray-Bans and now play the game. Because Beat the Bomb is this format of tech-enabled rooms. If tech changes, so actually one of the imperatives I've put to my team as we develop these tech-enabled game rooms, make the rooms out of wall panels that are changeable. Because 3 years from now, 7 years from now, in Beat the Bomb, we don't know what kind of technology we'll be putting on the walls. Like right now, we have a touchscreen in one of the game rooms. Once you have a touchscreen that has a built-in camera and microphone, we'll want to use that in order to have you play a game that maybe has you playing against a team in San Francisco. So as technology evolves, Beat the Bomb will evolve. We're creating a toolkit to have this sort of constantly evolving, I said evolve many times, constantly evolving tech suite.
Gotcha. Cool. So as you were, doing concept development, what was your process to kind of test the viability of this idea, and even figuring out who's the niche audience who's going to really enjoy this? Like, how did you get to the point of knowing when the concept was ready to launch?
So the process is very much step by step in which I learned and pivoted at each step. Going into this interview, I was thinking, am I honest about it, or do I try to say that I knew where it would end up all along? And I thought, I'm better to be honest and to say that the real process of creating something that's different, you have to continually rethink your assumptions and change as you go. So actually, as I left Tough Mudder, the first idea I had was to create something where you would buy a ticket to a black van, literally.
Wait, a black like a vehicle?
Like a vehicle, yes. And then you would do 3 different action sports on that day. You would go rock climbing and then maybe take a jiu-jitsu lesson, then learn how to fly a helicopter.
What?
Almost like a Mission Impossible day, or like a James Bond type day.
Yeah.
Actually ran a bunch of those trips, and there were things that I thought this was not going to be an easy business with actual physical vans, taking people to activities. And I realized that was very much still in the Tough Mudder mentality of selling. It would have been a good adjacent business for Tough Mudder, which actually for a long time was part of my job, was to think of things like that. But I took the feedback from running a few of those trips, and I thought, well, what I'll do is more of a city-based adventure. Kind of, I don't know if anyone's watched the Michael Douglas movie, The Game, but it's kind of the whole city and the world around you becomes this adventure. And I began thinking and reading a lot about immersive theater. I did Sleep No More and these kind of spy espionage things, and did tours around the city. I thought, maybe what I'll do is I'll give you a briefcase as a team, and inside the briefcase will be a dossier that takes you all around the city, and it ends in a room. Like, maybe there's one place you go is you watch an interrogation, then you ransack a hotel room, and then you chase someone down an alley, and at the end you need to disarm a bomb in a room, like as if you're Jack Bauer from 24, or you're in Die Hard or something like that.
Right.
And I began to think of that. And then I began to do escape rooms. And I thought, well, a lot of escape rooms have these espionage type experiences. And I thought it would be really difficult to do this across multiple locations, like literally renting many different facilities. It was too much to bite off in order to chew in the beginning. Then it just kept evolving. I did escape rooms, and then I started to critique them. And around the same time, I started going to immersive art installations. So I started to look at kind of modern artists using projectors and other types of technology to create experiences. But most of those were like immersive experiences. Think maybe the early days of what would become like a Meow Wolf.
Sure.
My mind turned towards, you can use this technology in the rooms to make them to play games with them. Like, I even remember there was an artist who had an exhibit where you walked around an empty room and the sound went like doo, and it kept sort of modulating as you went around. And I realized they were seeing a person in infrared. And as the person moved around the room, they had made the room a bunch of squares. And I thought, okay, well, if you can make a room a bunch of digital squares for people to stand on, you can make this a 4 to 6 player game where people have to stand in different places in the room in order to successfully achieve a pattern.
Yeah.
And I harkened to my days as a high school basketball player, where my coach was saying, you need to go from a 3-2 defense to a 2-3 defense. And which player now moves to around, or in soccer saying, changing up a formation. I thought, you can begin to do things in a room with digital technology that heretofore have only been done in sports, or like patterns, like in music.
Yeah.
I grew up I would play trumpet in a brass choir. And I was a terrible trumpet player, so I was in the middle a second trumpet, and we were always, doot, 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 doot. And I was like, or I'd done 1 or 2 plays, and then you had to jump. You had to know what your next line was based on the person's line before you. So I began to think, with digital technology, you can begin to create these experiences that are team experiences that heretofore have only been done in these other contexts. Yeah. That's really interesting. And I also had a friend who had the most popular haunted house in New York City. And I was always stunned at how many people he could get through by progressing them through a series of rooms. And actually, I began to go to escape room conventions and talk to people a lot of people who own escape rooms, own haunted houses. The idea of moving people from room to room to room was interesting to me. And then the idea came for, well, each room will be a 10-minute game and you progress yourself. And then actually the style of the game suggested itself. Because it's a 10-minute room, people ask me, like, well, what happens if you finish the game early? Like, well, we've built it because of that problem. What happens if you finish a 10-minute game in 7 minutes or something? We need to make levels of this game that are so many levels that you'll exhaust yourself by the time, at 10 minutes, you'll be working on a level. And the way I put it is, like, imagine a math test where it starts with addition, goes to multiplication, then some geometry, ends with, calculus or something higher than that. No matter how good you are at math, when the 10 minutes is up, you'll be kind of stuck on a problem. And then we can give you a certain amount of points for how many problems you finished. And that's the level structure at Beat the Bomb. So our games are made of levels. And after 10 minutes, you'll be working on a difficult level, whether it's a laser maze. I can describe the games in a bit, or the sound pattern game or a movement game. And then that's how much time you get, then you move on to the next room. So that's to say, in large part, that you start with a direction. You begin to prototype, you take feedback, and you continually iterate. And where you want to end up is at something that's very differentiated from anything that exists. Because if you're competing with what already exists, you're going to lose. They're already entrenched. You create go to the white space or the blue ocean or a lot of business books, find an area that has not been developed and create something totally new in that area. And that's where you'll be able to have competitive differentiation. Start the business.
So what has reception been like since opening the doors? And I'm also really curious, like the paint bomb, it sounds awesome. So back to like what you were saying initially about like you're in a typical escape room and then you don't solve the puzzle and you're just let out, right? Do you find that people have similar, like if they don't get paint on them by the end of it, they technically win. How do you deal with the possible anticlimactic end of somebody who doesn't, I don't know, or maybe it's that hard to solve and only a very small few groups don't get paint on them?
It's interesting because as you ask those questions, you're going through the thought process that I also went through. So I found a lot of the experience of creating Beat the Bomb to be a little bit more like an archaeologist than a builder, because you would kind of scrape away layers and learn how things had to be. So I had the same questions. Part of that is, so 93% of people fail on their first time to beat the bomb.
Okay.
Right? Only 7 out of 100 teams actually beat it. So 93% of people get the blast sort of when they're, 5, 4, 3, their time is running out. They're trying to disarm the bomb. They fail. Boom, they get blasted. The 7% that win, they play an additional small game to try to make kind of the pro league leaderboard. And generally then they fail that game and they get blasted. So basically everyone gets blasted with paint. It just sort of, are you getting blasted as a winner or not? And I've had the thought recently of maybe the teams who win should play something, should play for money or something. Like, hey, you beat the bomb, you can either leave clean or you can play to try to win $1,000 or something to make it a little bit more exciting. But generally, it's a game that's made for people to lose. I say it's a little bit like a water gun fight in the summer. You don't want to get wet right away, but you'd be a little disappointed if you didn't get wet at all in a water gun fight in the summer. So Beat the Bomb, people, there are actually some people who are about to win who drop the controls because they want to get, the paint blast. Everyone who's listening doesn't even know what we're talking about. Maybe you don't even in terms of beating the bomb. So you go into the final room and there are 6 controllers that are basically squeeze bulbs, is the way to put it. And what those do is they act in a Unity-based game. They act as a key press. You're playing a game that's on a large television that is set above this special effects apparatus that is the paint bomb. So you're playing a video game. So you're not actually cutting a wire or doing something physical. That's where, to our points earlier, I tried to get away from anything physical that once done you couldn't do again. So you're playing another video game in the bomb room. It's like beating the final boss level, of Beat the Bomb.
Yeah.
And what we have is we have 2 room formats. We have a 10 by 10 room that has touch screens, 6 touch screens around the wall, a projector, and underneath every touch screen is an RFID reader. Again, every player in the experience gets their own personalized RFID wristband. So if you tag into a screen, or if you tag, these readers, they know who you are. So that room can play games like, one game is called Mad Dash. The RFID readers light up, and you're assigned a color. Like, you might be blue, I might be red. And so you're running around the room tagging the blue ones, I'm tagging the red ones, and we're like getting each other's way. We're trying to get out of each other's way.
Yeah.
And during the game, we can switch the colors that are assigned. So now Eden is not red anymore. She's blue. Alex is not blue. He's red. And you have to pick up on the fact that this has changed. So that's a game called Mad Dash. The sound game is called Echo Chamber. You're required as a team to recreate a sound pattern that might go like dee dee doo doo dee doo dee. But every player stands at a different RFID reader, which makes a different sound, and you need to recreate them. We know how many wrong hits. The great thing about a digital game is you get all this data on the player, especially personalized with the wristband. So we know how many times Alex hits a wrong note, how many times Eden hits a correct note. It's really fun, the data that can come out of a Beat the Bomb game.
Do people
the touchscreen games like Sequencer, where they fill up with numbers and you have to hit numbers in order. That's kind of a written on a cell phone game that we discovered.
So are there like MVPs on teams then? Like, you're seeing your teammates' stats go down or go up, and then like, does that become a part of the dynamic?
We do give the team a printout that does have sort of which player we think was the MVP in the game. But I'd say we're still at the beginning of using and sort of thinking of how to use the data in the game.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of, imagine coming back to Beat the Bomb, and in our database, we know what level of the laser maze you got to. And now when you play again, you can start at the level that you last failed at. The idea of a digital-based gaming room allows you to do things that you could never do in any kind of physical room, which is why, having started where I did with the concept, it's essentially now becoming a room-based esport. It's digital gaming in these active rooms. And the amount of data and the integration of the database is going to be really fascinating, what we do with it in the years to come. You'll be able to come back. We'll know that in our database that you're a pro league player. You can play more difficult levels. I mean, you'll even be able to play ghost teams, basically teams from our database. It's a bit, imagine playing like online chess against the computer, and it knows how hard it should make it for you because you've already been a part of the system. It's really fascinating. Other things we're going to do with our digital game rooms, we're going to have them play against. So about 2 years ago, we created something called battle mode, where 2 teams can start in different rooms that are identical and can compete against one another. And then the winning team wins that room, and they have an advantage in the final showdown in the bomb rooms. And then the winning team gets to hit a red button as the losing team gets blasted. We're seeing increasing pickup, and that's already increased our average size of team by about 20%, where now we're seeing teams of 8, 9, 10 people come, separate into 2 teams, and play our battle mode. As we develop new locations of Beat the Bomb, we're going to play between cities. So imagine being in Brooklyn and playing a team in Atlanta at coming in at 7 o'clock on a Saturday, and you're actually playing a group of people coming in at 7 o'clock on a Saturday in a different city. super exciting.
Yeah. So are you seeing a lot of customers return then? I mean, it sounds like there's just so many varieties for how this game can be played, and the fact that it's digital, you can change it up. Like, given the digital nature, are you able to track, how many customers are coming back? What is your customer retention looking like right now?
It's between 10 and 15% of players who are playing today are people who have also played at some point previously in the past 12 months. We think that we can double that based on a bunch of initiatives that we can talk about. Battle mode and increasing that is one of them. Pro League nights, where if you beat the bomb, you get to come back and play as sort of weekly and monthly tournaments, is something. I always think of like Starbucks. About 40% of Starbucks business comes from about 5 to 10% of their customers. Those are the repeats. Those are the ones who come every day. Think of it like bowling. Like a bowling alley, generally a Saturday night type of proposition, but also makes a lot of revenue from bowling teams and people who are that kind of committed core. Right. Those are the people who bring other people, introduce them to bowling. So we're going to be doing initiatives to try to sort of create that type of dynamic around Beat the Bomb. Another one is different endings. So we're called Beat the Bomb, not Beat the Paint. We've had a paint bomb for since 2018 now. We're going to be introducing a foam bomb. Think of it almost like a whipped cream or like a car wash foam being blasted at you. Yeah. We're going to get a black hazmat suit, and it's going to be an ending to our second mission. So mission 1 is the first set of 5 games. Mission 2 is the second set of 5 games. You can walk into the digital room, tap your wristband. It's been programmed with a different set of games, and in that very same room, different games will fire up. So different endings is something that we think. And then, as we'll talk about, we're going to be introducing a food and beverage component to Beat the Bomb, where we have a bar. So here in Brooklyn, we've been open since 2018, had incredible takeoff right from the beginning. We did 35,000 customers year 1, 50,000 customers year 2. So very much confirmed all the hard work that had gone into developing the concept, that it was a hit. But all those years, just because of the sort of permitting that we've had here in Brooklyn, we haven't had a bar. In our next locations, we're going to have a full liquor bar, and it's listening to our customers. People finish the experience and say, "Man, I need a drink." So we want to be able to serve that to them. We want to be able to serve them a drink before they start. We want to be able to do a kind of drinks package with corporate teams. We see a lot of corporate groups doing the Beat the Bomb game. So that'll be something we think that'll also increase the repeat rate, because it'll no longer be I'm going to Beat the Bomb just to do the experience. It's I'm going to the Beat the Bomb bar where I can experience, but I can post up and have drinks and see what other games they have.
Sure, yeah. Are you guys going to have in this bar area, I'd almost imagine that you'd want to showcase teams going through the situation, right? Like, if somebody comes to Beat the Bomb thinking it's just a bar, and then they're suddenly looking at the screen and watching people, go through it, and they're realizing, oh, there's a game component, we should do that. Is that kind of like what you're thinking? There's some sort of lead generation component to the bar?
Yeah, we definitely think people will come to the bar, then, learn about the experience and want to do it. We think that'll particularly increase sort of the weekday sales. So on the weekends, we're sold out. It's a ticketed experience that you purchase in advance. And so, right now, if you showed up on a weekend, there wouldn't be anything to do because it would already be all booked. What we are creating for our next locations is something we call a game bay. It's a 3-walled game court with a projection front wall. On both sides are 3 touchscreens, underneath of which is RFID readers, so sort of 6 touchscreens in all. And this game bay will be able to play like 80% of our games. It'll play all the games that are not the laser maze games. And I described previously our first room format is a 10 by 10 with touchscreens and RFID readers. Our second room format is a 10 by 20 room with a laser maze sort of sensor that knows where you're standing in the room, and RFID readers on each end. This will play laser games. This will play a game we call Floor Grid, which is a game where you're moving around, trying to stand in the right places in the room. So we have these 2 formats, and basically the game bay is combining most of all those features with 3 walls, and the back is a drink rail. So think like an axe-throwing bay, but for casual digital gaming. So in our next locations, we'll have a set of those, which will keep open for people who just come to the bar and want to play games more casually. And sort of that will be our open inventory on a Saturday night. As far as the layout goes, and we've definitely benefited enormously by working with Arco, and I think it's probably definitely worth saying here that working with Arco is something that is a huge opportunity for us. We love the idea that the firm will be able to bring experience from other social entertainment concepts, of course, Top Golf, Putt Shack, etc., to bear on the design of a Beat the Bomb. But we're going to take some of the unique things about Beat the Bomb, which is our bomb rooms. We're going to make them glass-walled, and there's going to be a beer garden and the bar. And so everyone in that area is going to be able to watch through these glass walls the people there trying to beat the bomb. So every 10 minutes, there's going to be a blast of a team that probably loses. Hint, everyone's going to lose. And it'll also allow us to do things where maybe even eventually people in that beer garden can play games against the people in the bomb rooms.
Yeah.
We have a lot of CCTVs everywhere. All of our game rooms will have a half-light door, so you'll be able to walk around the facility and watch people in there playing. So it'll be, and beyond, right behind the bar is going to be CCTVs of what's happening in the game room. So it'll really feel almost like being in the control center of maybe a NORAD or nuclear facility where you're watching all the different rooms. It's going to be sort of a fantastic, unique experience that everyone's going to have to come out and see.
That is really cool. So tell me a little bit about growth for you guys. You guys have your eyes set on a number of cities. If you want to talk a little bit about which locations you're headed to, what you're looking for when you're looking for the next site, in terms of like specs of a space and that sort of thing.
Sure. So the current format of Beat the Bomb is a 7,000 to 9,000 square foot format. In Brooklyn here, we're in 5,000 square feet, but we want to do a little bit more with these game bays, with the bar area, with the party room, things when we built the first Brooklyn location, didn't really have the opportunity or wherewithal to do. Generally, because most of our inventory are game rooms, we can take basement space, we can take second floor space. And because of the nature of the experience, we can be at the destination. We want to be in an area where, like in a neighborhood and an area where there's other stuff to do. People often come to Beat the Bomb, and while we will have we're going to develop this F&B component, but the food is going to be very light. Think like appetizers, not full meals.
Sure.
So we want to be in an entertainment district where you can go and try out the newest sushi restaurant or a really cool tapas place. But we don't need to necessarily be absolutely in the center of it, paying the highest rents to be on the main strip. We can be just at the end of the main strip, or behind it, or we can be on the main strip in a basement. So very flexible in this sort of 7,000 to 9,000 square foot footprint. Our rooms are, as I described, these boxes. So we kind of our architectural philosophy is boxes in space. It won't be a pop-up, but it won't be impossible in the future to be able to essentially pop up a Beat the Bomb with game rooms. So it's very flexible as to how you situate these puzzle pieces. One thing is it's helpful if we don't have columns. So sometimes older buildings with many columns are not great. We do well in single story. We, at least to date, we find we've done well in kind of single story warehouses where there are very few columns. But it is ultimately flexible. Now, as far as our expansion plans, this year we will be expanding to 2 new locations. They are Atlanta in West Midtown with the landlord Jamestown, and DC in Northeast DC with the landlord in the Ivy City Hecht Warehouse Complex, the Douglas Development Corp. As a landlord. So super excited to be going to major MSAs here, kind of on the eastern seaboard, and proving out our concept in non-New York markets. The interesting thing about being in Brooklyn, where is our first location, is, to me, everybody in the world comes through Brooklyn. We have people speaking Yiddish, people speaking Cantonese, people speaking Spanish in our game rooms. We have tourists from the Netherlands and everywhere around the world. To the outside world, New York is a really unique beast, where if you develop a concept here, there's always going to be a question mark as to whether it will work outside of New York. There are so many people in New York. Again, it's one of these catch-22s. Here in New York, we're competing with every form of entertainment imaginable. We're competing with Broadway. We're competing with 2 different basketballs and sports teams and hockey teams, and we're thriving. And so we're cutting through all of that to do 50,000 people a year. To me, I know that will work in other markets, but to the outside world, of course, you need to prove it.
We're
going to be proving it this year in Atlanta and in DC. As we're not an escape room, but there are, as a kind of comparison, there are 3,000 escape rooms in the country in every single city. So if you look at our Google reviews, we have over 5,000 Google reviews at a 4.9 star rating. A lot of them talk about how this is the best escape room they've ever done, or it's better than escape rooms. We think that this concept will do well in every major MSA in the country. Because we are this format of boxes in space, and we use linear game routes, it's very flexible if we need to size up. I'm in Las Vegas, we'll be double the size of what we are even here in New York.
Right.
But if we're in Jacksonville, Florida, maybe you can be a one route, sort of 4 rooms and a bomb room, and that's all you need. So it's very flexible as we roll this out. So this year we're going to do 2 new examples, Atlanta and DC. Incorporate those learnings, very much iteration and innovation as part of our culture, and set our sights for a larger expansion ahead. I think within 5 years, we'll have 50 locations here in the US and potentially dozens on international licenses. We're already getting a lot of interest from landlords all around the country who are developing projects, and even from folks all around the world who want to license the concept into their cities. So it's an exciting future ahead for us.
That's awesome. So we've touched a little bit on some of the risks involved, just talking about, Brooklyn's seen as this different beast. What else would you think of? What comes to mind when you're thinking about the risk side of a concept like yours? And how does that compare to, maybe the more broader risks that are typical of location-based entertainment?
Well, first, there's execution risk. We're in the hospitality business. Everyone who comes through the door needs to be greeted like they're about to do one of the most fun things they'll ever do, which is the case. But so you need to be able to execute well and provide that level of hospitality. No matter how great your games are, if someone is one of your employees is rude to somebody or doesn't accommodate them, so I think as you expand a concept like this, absolutely core to it is to be able to execute well on the high level of service that we want to provide our customers. So that's something we're very focused on there. That involves company culture, hiring the right people, telling them about your mission and your values, and making sure that you attract the right types of people. So I think that's going to be one of the things that's difficult about a location-based concept, and it's true of any location-based concept, is trying to maintain the level of quality even as you scale. Right. For us as a concept, I think another thing we need to think about is right now we're working with today's technology and today's possibilities. We need to be able to change with the times. You're building this unit not just for the coming year or the coming 2 years. You want it to be there for a decade or longer. So as a company, we're going to need to continue to innovate, because we know that once we put something out there, the world will be able to look at it, and they'll be able to steal from it, and they'll be able to try to copy it, because you are doing a thing that's visible, right? We're not the secret Google algorithm that no one can see. When we put a product out there, yes, our software code is secret, our site ops system is proprietary, no one knows how we're doing our auto-filling bombs and whatnot, but you can kind of see it working, and then want to take a run at it. So we need to continue to innovate so that we're always one step ahead. I'm a little concerned about concepts that are digitizing historic things like mini golf, darts, shuffleboard, and what have you, because I wonder where they can then go with that, and how they can continue to have a moat around their concept, given that it's a bit sort of singular. Beat the Bomb is going to go where digital technology and gaming goes, but some of these other social entertainment stuff seem like they're taking historic activities and bringing them to our current day. They're making all the scoring digital and putting RFID chips in the balls. But I wonder, if you, in terms of mini golf, but where are they going to go from there? So, I think thinking of Beat the Bomb as an ever-changing format is where we will be successful as we continue to innovate. Yeah. As you scale something, you do need to make choices. You need to create. This is our technology suite. We think this will hold up for 3 years. We need to think about 3 years from now, are we going to need to innovate even on that? So I know I started by saying that escape rooms, one of the problems is they have to renovate their rooms. We're not going to be completely immune from that. 3 years, 5 years, we're going to have to upgrade what we're doing.
Yeah.
The good thing about having an amazing team is that we already have a lot of that vision in place for where we'll go in the coming years. And the themes are not only creating these social games, but beginning to network rooms against each other, locations against each other, and potentially even playing against people who are playing on the internet. So during the pandemic, a bit out of necessity, but also, out of opportunity, and we're excited to do it, we took our Unity-based games and we put them on a website. So we call it Beat the Bomb Virtual. You can log into a Skype call or Zoom call or Teams call like we're doing here, log into a website, and now we can play a collaborative team building game through the internet across the entire world.
Yeah.
So we've clients from Citigroup to Amazon to the United Nations, literally, playing with players between Mozambique, Uruguay, and Japan are digital games. And one of the interesting things is the moment we did that, we said to ourselves, this is really interesting because now if I go into the bomb room at the Beat the Bomb location in Brooklyn, I might be able to play against people who are playing me from anywhere.
Yeah.
I could see on video. Matt putting this in Universal Orlando, and I walk in with my family and we're playing against my aunt and my cousin who are around the country. Just so the themes here are creating a platform that's networked across the internet, across locations, that benefits from scale, and that eventually begins to open up its platform. Roblox might be something that's an inspiration where people are making games for that platform. What we're going to start doing is we have an amazing development team, and I always look at them and I say, these are people who love to make games, but they're not the only people who love to make games. If they can create an SDK, a software developer kit for Beat the Bomb, then we can have people make games, go into Beat the Bomb, load their own game, and play it.
That's interesting.
In fact, lean into the STEM.
Right.
What we haven't done yet are summer camps, after-school programs where you're teaching how to develop in Unity, teaching them how our laser maze works, how our RFID readers work, and then having them make their own games. So that's what I see in the future is, you coming into a laser maze that maybe you even programmed yourself, and opening up what we're doing as a platform. It's a dangerous place in business for you to think that you're the only person who can ever do what you're doing. So what you want to do eventually, you want to kind of move towards the platform. You want to move towards connecting the sort of essential core of the system. It's not far-fetched that I look at CrossFit as an example. CrossFit took workout gear, kettlebells, ropes, Concept 2 rower, and they made a program around it. They gamified it. They said, here are the components. Now all these physical trainers from around the world can begin to make their own workouts and program with this. And CrossFit sort of owned the concept of competitive fitness as a game. Beat the Bomb in the end, say, here's our tech platform. You can download the specs. I'm not saying that you would put one in your own garage, but I'm not saying you wouldn't in the future years. Can Beat the Bomb kind of stand for room-based collaborative gaming, and create the software layer to do that and license our concept, potentially one day open source aspects of it to create a community around this type of new activity. And that's where we're very much at the at the tip of the iceberg or the very beginnings, I guess I could say, of where I think this room-based gaming will go. We're seeing an incredible rise of esports. I think what we're doing is at the beginning stages of taking a room and bringing it alive with technology and seeing where that can go and seeing the types of games that can be played with it. I also think parents want that. I mean, parents are watching their kids sit on a couch on a tablet, watching their kids sit on a computer playing a game. Esports needs to get up and out of the chair, and it needs to get quicker. Kids are going to want digital experiences where they get scores and can achieve levels. But at Beat the Bomb, they're doing it while running around a laser maze room or moving around a 10 by 10 room, being social with friends. So I think you're going to see almost a little bit of a pushback against traditional esports of kids at console-based or desktop-based games, and parents and the schools are going to want them to start moving around. And I think eventually, if you go to PE class in 2035, you're going to be playing digital games. And we're going to look back on a conversation like this in 2022 saying, oh, that was the start of it.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. I love how expansive, your concept is. Like, you've clearly thought of so many different routes for it. And there's so much that's, that you're just preparing for in terms of the innovation side. I love it. We are at the end of time, but I will ask the final question that I just ask everybody, which is, what knowledge would you want to impart on an entrepreneur who's starting a new concept in the sector of location-based entertainment?
I have one piece of advice, and I think it's the most important piece of advice, because there's so much that you could say by going through an experience like this. The number one thing is you need to believe in yourself. It's going to be difficult. There'll be twists, there'll be turns, but you need to have this core belief in yourself that you'll be able to pull it off. It's not easy. It's an entire life change.
Yeah.
When you strike out on your own, decide to basically, forego a salary at another company to create a company totally by yourself. You're not getting paid. You're investing your life savings in this. You really need to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And anyway, maybe people who know me would know I'll say, here's the one piece of advice, then follow up with another. But the second thing is, you can't do it alone. It's, I wish that this conversation were not just me and you, it were, you and my entire team, because there was a time when I was sitting on my couch, looking up at the ceiling, trying to think through all this. And it only starts to happen when you involve other people.
Yeah.
You need people who are going to be there with you. Like, I don't program anything. And yet we have this digitally programmed room-based gaming system. So you need to find ways to inspire other people, bring them along, show them the vision, and trust them and find the right people. So it's really so much about finding the right people. There's a long list of names that I could list that without them, Beat the Bomb wouldn't be here. The folks they're listening, they know who they are. So you need to believe in yourself, and then at the same time think, okay, I can't do this alone. I need people to work with, inspire them to come along with me, and then create something unique and amazing. And you ultimately think this is your gift to the world. What you're doing is your impact on the world, and hopefully it's positive. And you can kind of be proud of what you've created. We're still at the beginning of this. I look back, we really started this in 2016, prototyping it, 2017, building the first location, launching in 2018. Here we are in 2022. I probably in the beginning thought that it would have been a 5-year journey. Now I see that the 5-year journey is just the beginning. So believe in yourself. It's going to be an amazing journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know some people had questions they wanted to ask you, so I'll make sure to connect those people with you. But I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing all your insight. It looks like you guys are out to go do amazing things, and I wish you all the best.
Well, thanks so much. We appreciate the partnership with ARCO and can't wait to see where we take this.
Yeah. Thanks. And thanks to everyone who tuned in. Have a great day.
Bye.